Right.
We had no idea what was going to happen before we got there. But by the way, that's when I thrive. Yeah. I think that's when Alex thrives. I mean, when we start planning, things get fucking haywire. Like I get excited when there's just the wide open.
And I feel like you maneuvered pretty well with some of the things thrown your way.
Yeah, I mean, I did the best I could. Now there's an interesting, it was kind of a dark energy in the building. And but Alex doesn't have it, but the workers do.
Yeah.
Because they're like, he may have it if you spent more time around him, but he actually was just like a lovely guy to us, just like a friendly, funny, nice guy. But the workers seem there because the day in and day out, like me and Rogan talk about it all the time. I'm like, I could not do day in and day out what they do, like to just talk about politics every day. You know, no matter what side of the coin you're on, but there's a darkness. They're all kind of afraid of him, you know, because I'm sure he lets him have it every now and then. It seems like he would every now and then would just let him have it.
We saw a glimpse of it.
We saw a little bit of it. But it probably gets when there are no guests in the building. It's probably like that scene in Succession. I don't know if anyone's watching where they do bore on the floor. And the head character in Succession, who's supposed to be like Rupert Murdoch, he just won a Golden Globe. His name's escaping right now. He's fucking brilliant. Brian, who's the guy in Succession, the head of Succession. But he goes, bore on the floor. He goes, get on the floor. Get on the floor. And it's like a party in the show Succession. And he just starts stuffing hot dogs.
Brian Cox
is amazing. It's a great scene, well worth a watch. They're on the floor and he starts stuffing hot dogs in their mouth. He goes, hey, little piggies, you want it? And he starts throwing the hot dogs on the floor and they have to pick them up with their mouths. Yeah. And he goes, you like it, little piggies? Bore on the floor. And I went, oh, that might go down here 10 minutes after me and Ben leave if they don't fucking do the right thing.
Yeah.
You know, like... But there's a dark energy there. What do you attribute that to? I mean, other than the fact that it's like the topics that they talk, and they're on the outside. Everything's very like the war is coming. Like we landed, we were walking around Austin and Austin's airport, and I was looking at people. I was like, "Do you know where the prison planet is?" We're trying to find the prison planet. There is a war on for your mind.
When we walked into the green room, it's 50 degrees in there. It's ice cold, freezing cold. First thing I said to you is I said, this feels weirdly like a government building.
Right. Yeah, it does. It's and that's where you probably get conspiracies like, oh, Alex is part of the whatever.
Right.
It's, you know, which I don't believe, but it is a operation that is larger in scope than you would imagine. He's, you know, got several studios. It's a news. What he started with he's one guy. I mean, and there's other people on that network that are gaining in popularity, but he's still the guy. And so everything's an outgrowth of him. And so the idea is pretty amazing. We're living in a pretty interesting time in history where one guy can get a following that dwarfs a mainstream media news outlet. Like he can have more people following him and watching his content than the evening news, than... you know, a network news show. That was interesting to see up close. Like that was interesting to see how that happens. That being said, yeah, there is just a dark energy there. There is like, we're on the edge of, you know, every single thing they talk about is that we're in a war. We're in the midst of a war and we're on the edge of something terrible happening and you feel it with all the music they play, da, 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 you know, and everybody kind of has that feeling in the studio. And then, of course, all of them, it's in an undisclosed location in Austin because they're all, you know, everybody's like, I'm sure they get threats and they have DDoS attacks, right? All that stuff.
Yeah. The
site suffers a lot. It's wild. And then as we leave, there's just two little kids like eating Chick-fil-A in one of the break rooms. And I don't even know. I guess there's someone's kid. They're like eating Chick-fil-A right in the break room.
Yeah.
What would be hilarious is if we left, those two little kids got on and they were like, MK Ultra's real. Like, you know, if they just started going off, you know, they both take out their guns. They're like, don't fuck, you're not taking my gun. You know, they're being interviewed by Gun Girl. What's her name? Caitlin Bennett. That's who I thought they were going to put, like, afterwards. They were like, you want to do some other shows? I'm like, we got to run.
Yeah.
We got to run, you know?
Alex doesn't really get comedy, but he's the funniest guy ever.
Yeah, I don't think he gets, we played some of our sketches on the show. I'm sure his people will enjoy it. I don't know that I think he liked some of it. I bet you his head's running 1,000,000 miles a minute. And I bet that there's parts of it that he doesn't. Like, he found the Greta Thunberg sketch where I play her agent. He found that interesting because he felt like, he's like, yeah, that's an accurate depiction of an agent. He's like, you're not even doing comedy. You're just showing people what it is. You're just showing people what it is. Epstein's temple is walking around LA. This is real. You are Meghan McCain. Nothing's funny here. This is what it is. I'm like, thank you. I mean,
he said a couple of things that are just not true.
I don't listen, because that's the other thing on the show where you have to be careful, because you're sitting there and you're nodding and you're agreeing with him about everything, right? And this is literally what happened, word for word. He's like, and free speech is important. When we started the country, we know we had free. And Michelle Wolf bragged about killing her baby. She said it made her feel strong. And I'm like, whoa, hold on. I don't know that. Did that happen? I'm like, I don't. And he's like, George Soros is a Nazi. He's literally a Nazi. So you have to stop yourself, because you're going like, yeah. Then you're like, oh, hold on.
Right.
Wait a minute.
Right.
Only because I know so little about George Soros. I know what people know, which is that he's a financier. He's collapsed a few world economies like anyone else with his level of wealth. And he takes an interest in how people live and what they do. And he funds the people that he thinks. I mean, it's like, but I know that he's the boogeyman on the left in the same way that the Kochs are the boogeyman for the right. I get it.
Right.
But I know nothing about George Soros' history. So when somebody goes, he's a Nazi, I'm like going, is it? All right. Like, I don't know.
Even on a basic level, like off air, he was like, yeah, copyrights and stuff. We can play whatever we want. There's no such thing as copyrights. It doesn't exist. We're like, Alex, that's not
yeah,
true.
Maybe. I don't know. I mean, who knows?
But I guess I might believe in the Illuminati too if every single major company got together and deplatformed me on the same day.
Yeah. Well, listen, he's manifested the world that has happened in a sense, because like he 100% is not wrong when he talks about a small group of elite people controlling the world and all its resources. Nobody really debates that. The debates are like, well, what are we going to, the debates are what, if that wasn't the case, what would it look like? Would it be one dictator doing it? Would it be worse? Would it be some global government system? I mean, it's like the real thing is, okay, well then what comes next? It's really like a compared to what argument. Most people, even cynical people like myself, will kind of be like, yeah, it is bad. And I hate private prisons. I hate this. I hate that. But then it's like when you people are like, well, let's tear it all down. You're like, well, great, but then what? So he's not wrong about that. I think what's happened to him, though, is it's become explicitly political. Like, it feels very political as of late. It feels like Republicans good, Democrats bad. Trump good, and he distanced himself from that today a little bit. But Trump's good, Democrats are bad. And it's just interesting that this guy, Donald Trump, who we know has been with these people, admittedly been bribing these people, pouring money in their mouths, getting everything he wants from them, hanging out with guys like Jeffrey Epstein, that this guy is somehow the white knight savior of the country. That's just, to me, I've always found that hard to believe. I'm just a cynical guy, and I don't believe that Donald Trump is going to do it. I don't believe that Jesus Christ chose Donald Trump but there are people out there that believe that. I'm not saying that Trump's Hitler. I don't believe that either. I don't believe Vladimir Putin put Trump in your breakfast cereal or whatever people on the other side allege. I think Trump's just a guy, but I think he's a statement that it isn't working, and we're probably at peak of what this is going to look like in terms of, you know, the economy's roaring and things are pretty good. And I think a Donald Trump-like figure comes around after 20 years of a government that's been mired in corruption and has sold out the middle class, to say nothing of the poor. And that's when a figure like Trump emerges. It's when a figure would emerge that, you know, that's like, fuck everything. But it just feels, Alex, it feels more like a political show now than a conspiracy show. But now those worlds have fused together, and on the left, they fuse together because they believe that Russia's behind everything. Tulsi Gabbard, Russia. Everybody's Russia, you know? Bernie, Warren, every single. But what was it like for you interacting with him? Because he was calling you Ed McMahon because you weren't talking that much.
Yeah.
He was like, who's the guy that sat on the couch next to Carson and didn't say anything? Ed McMahon. That's who he is, Ed McMahon.
I was thrilled.
How wild is it that Alex Jones reading your Twitter handle?
I know.
It's like, Ben Avery is good. It's a real... What is it like interacting with him?
It was just the thrill of a lifetime, dude. He's just... I mean, is there anybody more... The whole time, in between every break, Tim, in between every break, we would just turn to each other and we'd be like, how much fun is this? I mean, have you had more fun than doing Infowars? I mean, it was such a fucking
It was
blast.
so much fun. I have had more fun.
Oh, okay.
I have had more fun than doing Infowars.
I have not had more fun than doing
good.
Infowars.
Well, that's lovely for your fiance to hear. But I've had more fun. But I loved it. It was a lot of fun. It was amazing. He's an interesting guy. He's a fascinating guy. The operation is fascinating. It's a fascinating period of history to see up close.
You know, if you need, go get a potato and put a Marlboro Light in its mouth and watch that and then press play on your phone.